Thank you for being here, Ms. Hahn. We show you registered as Aaron Hahn, representing Texas Housers for the bill. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Lozano and committee members, for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Aaron Hahn. I'm a research analyst with Texas Housers. We work to ensure that low-income Texans have access to safe, decent, and affordable housing. We support House Bill 2996 as it would help victims of domestic violence and current and former foster youth under the age of 26 use a housing choice voucher to obtain housing, which is imperative to ensuring their safety, well-being, and ability to achieve upward mobility. Because of the lack of affordable housing in our state, low-income people face enormous competition when searching for housing they can afford, and survivors of domestic violence and foster youth face additional challenges. As it's been mentioned, survivors of domestic violence are often victims of financial abuse, and as a result may have poor credit history or an eviction on their record, which makes it extremely difficult to apply for and obtain for housing. But I just want to note that this bill doesn't have to do with whether they're being discriminated on based on their credit or their eviction record. Those things can still be considered. Landlords just cannot deny to accept a housing choice voucher. I'll answer more questions at the end. But foster youth often do not have a support network that could help them find and secure housing, and 1 in 4 of America's foster youth are homeless within 4 years of leaving foster care. Housing choice vouchers are one of the most effective tools for helping low-income people obtain housing in the private market. However, voucher recipients face significant challenges when looking for a rental property when they can use their voucher, and many landlords refuse to accept vouchers as a form of payment. According to a survey of apartments across 4 counties in Texas, only 7% of landlords reported being willing to accept vouchers. In Austin, 1 in 3 voucher recipients do not find a landlord who will accept it before it expires. In San Antonio, where I am a constituent, 1 in 2 fails to find a landlord in time. Voucher holders are often discriminated against because of misconceptions, including the inaccurate belief that they bring crime to properties or that they lower property values. These myths harm low-income people who desperately need affordable housing and who often have no avenue to obtain it aside from using their voucher. And when a voucher recipient fails to find a landlord who is willing to accept their voucher in the time allowed, they are forced to forfeit their voucher and re-enter the waiting list, which is years long in most Texas cities. For many low-income families, losing their voucher may lead to homelessness. It's important to understand that this bill is not a blanket requirement for landlords to accept housing choice vouchers. Rather, this bill allows local governments to opt in to protecting domestic violence survivors and current and former foster youth against source of income discrimination. Domestic violence survivors should not have any unnecessary obstacles in their way to acquiring new stable housing, and removing barriers to housing for current and former foster youth will help them achieve the foundation they need for future success. Ensuring source of income protection for victims of domestic violence and current and former foster youth would help some of Texas' most vulnerable residents access housing that may otherwise be unaffordable and inaccessible to them, and help protect them against the lasting negative impacts of housing stability and homelessness. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Members, any questions? Vice Chair Gates?
So, okay, I'm understanding a little bit better. You can still base a decision on criminal history, credit risk. You're just saying you can't, if the fact that they walk up the housing choice voucher.
Yeah, a landlord would not be able to refuse a tenant simply on the base of their source of income being a housing choice voucher for these 2 subpopulations, victims of domestic violence and current and former foster youth under the age of 26.
But currently right now, throughout the entire state of Texas, you can decide if you want to take any kind of voucher program, whether it's the local housing authority or whatever. You can say, no, we don't take that right now.
There is state law that prohibits local governments from passing blanket source of income protections, but there is a carve-out for veterans, and so this bill would increase the carve-out to include victims of domestic violence and current and former foster youth under 26 in addition to veterans.
Well, all these programs that we have in the state of Texas, for affordable housing and through the Texas Department of Housing, don't they have to take housing vouchers, or can they also not do it, discriminate?
Are you asking if properties who receive subsidies?
I'm just wondering, is there a way, instead of making it so broad that everyone, there is a lot of, any type of program that takes any kind of government assistance to create their property, is there a way to just limit it to that? Because like PFCs is a good example. why not make them all have to take this program because they're getting a benefit in some way? And a tax credit type property, can they discriminate? Why not at least force them to have to take a house voucher? Isn't there a pool that we could start with instead of just the entire state of Texas?
It's my understanding that light tech properties, any properties that receive subsidies from the federal government, do have to accept housing choice vouchers. Where I'm from in San Antonio, I believe properties that receive city subsidies also have to accept housing choice vouchers. So I believe it's common for subsidized housing to have to take housing choice vouchers. But you say that this is too big to expand it for across the state of Texas, but it's already state law that local governments can opt in to protecting veterans from source of income.
Right.
So this would expand that.
Okay.
Members, any more questions? No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.